Hello everyone, and welcome to this presentation about the 10 trends of IoT in 2020. I will go through all the 10 trends and explain how they will impact the new technologies like IoT and blockchain and artificial intelligence in the coming year, and actually after that, not just on the coming years. A little bit background of myself. I teach at two universities, at San Jose State and also at Stanford University. And my focus in teaching is actually in IoT and cybersecurity and blockchain. The school, San Jose State, they have some media expert that will explain this to the public, and I am one of them. That's why I have a lot of appearances in those channels from NBC to CBS and Fox and ABC and the Spanish channel and BBC and NPR. I have published a book last year, and this book is on the shelf of one of the some of the top schools in the in the country, from Stanford to Princeton to Berkeley to Harvard. And last week, the book won an award, which is called the San Jose State Annual Author and Artist Award for 2019. My next book is coming in the end of this month, which is specifically about blockchain technologies and applications. Now, usually when I talk about the hot technologies for the coming 5 years, it's actually it's actually an answer for so many of the questions from students who are working on their senior projects or working on their thesis about what is next for us. So I mentioned the IVAC, which is Internet of Things, and blockchain and artificial intelligence, cybersecurity. The combination of the four technologies here is actually shaping the future of technology. They are interrelated, they help each other, they form the vision for the 2020 and beyond. To make them much easier to understand, I use this slide, which is explains the conduct or the actions of the different technologies, and uh, try to relate them to some of the senses or some of the actions of human. So IoT is actually feels, blockchain remembers, never forget, and AI thinks, and cybersecurity protects. Now, if you ask something like 5,247 C-level executives, C-levels, anybody, their titles start with the letter C, CFO, CEO, CTO, you name it, about the technologies that will shape the near future, you will see that Internet of Things comes, at one of the top three technologies after cloud computing and services and mobile solution. And it's actually there for a reason, because people, especially executive who are at the top level, understand and realize how significant is this technology. Few facts about IoT before I proceed into the predictions for 2020. The number of installed devices, and when we talk about anything installed and that belongs to IoT, that means that device has an IP address and it's really connected to the internet somehow. By 2025, we'll be facing by 75 billion devices connected. 75 billion devices connected to the internet, and that's a huge number when you talk about handling the data and processing the data and trying to get insight from the data. Challenges facing the technology, the IoT technology, is number one is security, and this is the concern of so many people, developers, you know, executives, engineers. 85% that they're worried about that, and then you're talking about the lack of the skilled engineers or scientists to deal with the data, especially with the data science specialist. Um, the data scientist is one of the hardest jobs, in the Silicon Valley, and companies are looking for people who have this kind of background. The other thing is that again, 70% is talking about how they are really worried about the attacks against the IoT because of the vast network of the IoT. The perceived and expected and real benefits of IoT by executive goes from 90% in media companies believe that IoT is really important for them to 80% retails, 66% cities looking at it, smart cities. and to 25% project saving when it comes to the healthcare. And the healthcare is really a good example of the applications of IoT. I'm going to go over this one very quickly because we need to jump into the predictions. Why companies are using IoT. There are very good reasons for that. Reduce cost, grow the revenue, improve the business process, improve the productivity, and improve the customer and or citizen experience, and increase the competitive edge of the company. So those are enough reasons for companies to jump into the IoT wagon. Now, other facts about it: by 2020, we'll hit the 20 billion devices connected to the internet, and 90% of the automobiles will be connected to the internet by 2020. Every second, as we speak, we will have another 127 devices connected to the internet. 3.5 billion cell IoT connections by 2023, and this is away from the Wi-Fi, the Bluetooth, the Zigbee, whatever connectivity you talk about. This is straight into the cell network. The total economic impact of IoT could range between $4 to $11 trillion by 2025. Home market of IoT is expected to grow, and this is the smart home devices, to $53.45 billion by 2022. The healthcare is benefiting a lot from the IoT, so the market will expand to $140 billion. 80% of industrial manufacturing companies are using and plan to use the IoT devices. In the production, I'm going to talk about the concept of the digital twin and how it's really used by many companies so they can save on the design, on the improvement of the process. 90% or 9 out of 10 senior executive in technology, media, and telecom, the TMT companies, they say that IoT growth is critical for their business. This is really great to see that the TMT industry is looking at it from that perspective. By 2021, 80% of retailers will be use this one to customize the store experience. We have the experience of the Amazon, cashierless stores where you go there and grab the stuff and use your phone to pay for it. No cashier, no lines, nothing. You just go to the shelf and get what you want, and they will charge you through your Prime account. Now let's jump to the 10 trends of IoT in 2020. And this slide is showing all the trends together. I'm going to dive into each one of them a little bit and explain how they are really helping in shaping the 2020 technology. From growth in data to AI to the new interface, which is the voice user interface, to more investment in IoT, to a real expansion of the smart IoT to the cities, to the cars, to the streets, the industrial IoT and digital twin technology, going to the edge. Edge computing or fog computing is really more and more becoming a preferred solution for so many of the companies. The focus on the security with the implementation of the blockchain technology, and also the social and the legal and ethical issues facing IoT. The last thing we're going to talk about is the standardization, which is still a problem, and there are actually reasons for us to be in that category. Year 2020 will hit all the components of the IoT model, which is 4 components. Any IoT system has 4 components: the sensors, the network, which is the communication between the sensors and the cloud, the analytics that we do at the cloud, and the applications. And each one of the 4 elements will be impacted differently based on the technology advancement. The increase in revenue in 2020 by the applications and implementation of IoT will be $344 billion in revenue and $177 billion in cost reduction, and the increase in productivity itself will be between 40 to 60%. Prediction number 1 is more devices will enter the market, and there will be more human and device interaction. And as we speak, by the end of 2019, there will be around 3.6 billion devices that is actively connected to the internet and used for daily tasks. This is the one that it is connected, not the one that it is part of the IoT. And this is doing daily tasks. Now imagine what's going to happen with a 5G, and how is that going to open the door for more devices and more data traffic. Also the introduction and the adoption of the edge computing, and how the edge computing will increase the use and make it so easy for decision making. when you are close to the action or the points of action. AI is there and will be there and will stay there as a big player in the IoT. And the AI itself is the rule for us, the mean for us, the tool for us to understand, the data and to look through the data and to get the patterns and the insight from the data. Companies like Amazon, Microsoft, and Google, they are competing based on their AI capabilities. You name it. There is no 1 week without an announcement to one of the big names talking about an advancement in AI and how that's going to help and make sure that machine learning slash AI is helping the companies to get more out of the data they're collecting from the customers. How can the AI help the IoT? There are actually 6 ways for it to help. Some number one is the data preparation, the data discovery, and the third one is the visualization of the streaming of data and the time series accuracy of the data, making sure that it really has the correct data, and also the predictive and advanced analytics that we can get from the data. At the top of that one is the last thing that the AI can help the IoT analytics is the real-time geospatial and locations logistic data. So this is how the AI is going to help with that. The prediction number 3 is talking about the voice user interface. We are used to the graphical user interface. We are used to the touch, where you can touch the device and get the information. That's not going to be the case. As we advance in time, you're going to see that a lot of companies are using the voice assistants or the digital assistant devices that rely on the voice user interface as their way of communicating with the user. So and those devices like Alexa and HomePod and Google Home and Siri, they are actually the hubs for the future or the existing devices of that companies. This is their way of cementing their position in the IoT universe. 80% of our daily communication is done through voice, and if you watch any of the sci-fi movies, you're going to see that most of the robots we have them, the communication with them through voice, from R2D2 to C3PO to Jarvis, you name few. So we actually took a chapter from the sci-fi movies, and we implement this one as one way of communicating with the different devices. More money gonna come to the Internet of Things. The spending on IoT will hit $1.4 trillion by 2021. The reason for this one is very simple, because IoT is one of those companies, or those technologies, one of those markets that were both emerging and traditional venture capitalists are really interested in that. It's not just new technology. You talk about companies like HP, you talk about companies like Microsoft, and then you talk about startups. You talk about companies like Google and the others, and they're really interested. The interest is the same for the old and the new companies. Customers will be waiting for the next big invention for the IoT. Example of this one, the smart mirrors that will analyze your face and call your doctor if you look sick, and will tell you that I have this appointment for you with the doctor. Same time, they're going to call Uber or Lyft to take you to the doctor, back and forth. ATM machine that have a smart camera that will not just only look at your face, or to analyze all the reactions, and if you are really there because you want to be there or because you be forced to be there. Smart forks that will tell you how to eat and what to eat if you are on a diet, or if you have some kind of allergies for certain foods. Smart beds that will turn off the lights when everybody is sleeping. The fifth one is the expansion of the smart IoT, which is going straight into the smart cities. Smart cities has been one of those biggest applications for the IoT, and looking at the neighborhood with studying the walking routes, shared car use, building occupancies, and sewage flow and temperature, everything going to make sure that it's really making that place comfortable and convenient and safe and clean for those who's living there. And that one can be scaled up and applied from one neighborhood to the other. Another area is the auto industry. Auto industry is a big user of the smart devices. It's become actually a norm for here in the Silicon Valley. There is no one day without me driving, through San Jose or the highways, that connecting the different cities of the Bay Area. without seeing at least 2 3 of the driverless self-driving cars, and it's become like a norm. I remember just yesterday I've seen two of them driving together and going from one street to the other street, and now we're getting to the point where it is acceptable and it is normal to see them driving themselves. Number six is the rise of the industrial IoT and the digital twin technologies. Factories are looking at that more seriously, looking at how can they apply this to help them to be efficient and less risky and more profitable. Bringing enhanced efficiency will help in this. One of the application for this one is the digital twin technology. This one will give you a parallel universe where you can try and test different configuration of your factory, if you're set up on your in your shop, if you're set up in your company without impacting the real business, and after you're happy with the configuration, you just can move it to the real world. That's an important thing to keep in mind. It's different from simulation. It's different from a sandbox. It's actually a real replica of what you're doing in that factory. 48% of smart manufacturer adapter have made plan to make use of the digital twin concept. Number seven is more movement to the edge. The edge, or the fog computing, is pushing the calculations, pushing the decision making down close to the action point instead of sending everything to the cloud. So it's distributing the load of the processing and move it close to the edge of the network sensors, and this in the case of IoT. And that is very, very, very important. Why? Because you're going to have some benefits, and I list some of those benefits. It's going to minimize the latency of sending and receiving the data, preserve and conserve the network bandwidth instead of sending everything to the cloud, operate reliably with a quick decision, collect secure a wide area range of data, and move the data to the best places where we can make that decision and have a better analysis and insight of the local data where you are making that decision. It's on the rise, and the edge computing in the rise, and so many companies are really investing. And I know Intel and Microsoft, they have a big investment in the edge computing, following Cisco, who really started the whole movement of the fog computing / edge computing. The two factors that are leading this change is the powerful devices in the edge that have many factors is easy for us. Why? Because they're cheaper now, and the centralized infrastructure we have of the client server technology of the cloud is really more stressed and under pressure. So we need to move a little bit of the calculations away from the cloud, so we can free the computing power of the cloud for a more intense task. Number 8 is security. Blockchain is a technology that I can talk about it for the whole hour just explaining that, but the security is security, and it's a main concern, and it's number one concern when it comes to IoT. How can I secure the 4 element of the IoT, from the sensor to the network to the cloud to the applications? The reason for this is the current architect of the IoT is one of the main reasons for this kind of problems, this kind of lapse in security. IoT needs blockchain because it's going to offer a lot of help and protect the data and protect the transmission of the data and the validity of the data through many things. Number one is the blockchain as a technology. It's public. It's the same copy on thousands of computers. People can see the encrypted version of the data, and it's decentralized. So if some of the nodes went down, you still have the rest of the network, and also it is secure because it's encrypted. And if you modify 25 of the computers, you still have another few hundreds that have the same data, and they will sync together and find out that the information is different, and they will kick the change in the data out. The future that I hope we can see soon about blockchain is to have devices that will say blockchain certified. Number 9 is more social, legal, and ethical issues. GDPR is a reality from 2018, and a lot of companies, they need to comply with that. Every certain area of the world, they have their own regulation when it comes to privacy, security, and safety. So that's going to be a challenging part for the IoT to make sure they comply with the different rules and regulations in different areas, so they can send and receive and expand their business. The last one is the standardization still a problem. The pie is too big, and companies will never let go. I mean, Alexa is not talking to Siri. Siri is not talking to Google Home, Google Assistant, and so on. So the standardization itself is still an issue. Um, One of the solution is that to have a limited number of vendors, where we're talking about like what we have now with the Windows and the Mac and the Linux, and you can pick and choose whatever you want. The other one is to look at organization like IEEE that will help in making sure the standards are the same across the network. Now, difficulty of a standardization is well documented, and we should understand it, because in order for you to have the standardization process, you need to go through three levels: platform, connectivity, and applications, and each one of them has its own issues. For the case of the platform, it's dealing with the user experience and the user interface and the analytic tools. The connectivity deals with the customer contact points with the devices. The last one is the application, is actually the home of the application, where they control, collect, and analyze this kind of data. So you need to kind of have a standardization. Doesn't matter who is making this platform or connecting the devices or having these applications. We need to have standards for that. And that's not going to happen unless we have some organizations like IEEE or the government itself have this kind of rules that to make the companies follow the standards so they can do business with them. Conferencing,